So I need you to record me.
So just hold it on you. Tell me when you're ready, and I have to turn this around.
Good morning, everyone. We are so glad that you are here today.
Wait a second. Sorry. How do you turn your camera around on your phone? Oh, there we go.
Just want to welcome you all to this class. We're so excited to have you here at the Indigenous Food Lab Market. We're going to get to our class in just a moment. We always want to start with the land acknowledgement. So we're going to do that first. We give thanks for gathering together on Dakota and Ojibwe land. We are grateful for the ancestors and elders' knowledge as stewards of our earth. We honor all who came before us. We gather today to change current food apartheid policies by learning, growing, and cooking together in the empowering Indigenous spaces that we are in. So I want to introduce myself before I introduce our fabulous instructors. My name is Michelle Shaw, and I have an initiative called Minneapolis Edible Boulevards. We are a food justice program that partners with community members in our green zone neighborhoods in Minneapolis to grow fresh produce in their neighborhoods. We teach people how to grow food, essentially in the neighborhoods that have experienced the most environmental injustices. That's air pollution, soil pollution, not having access to fresh produce. So those are the neighborhoods, especially the neighborhood that we are in right now is one of those neighborhoods. So most importantly, we offer things like soil testing to make sure it's safe to go in their spaces. We offer gloves, we offer that mentorship, like I said, so that it goes all the way from digging up the sod to getting those plants in the soil. So if you know anybody that would be interested, right now we're done for this season, but next season we'll be having a lot of openings. And we also offer cooking classes, and that's what brings us here today. And later on, we'll be talking about some announcements of what we have for the upcoming months. So I'd like to introduce Vern and Riva. We're so excited to have today's cooking class. Vern is a member of the Red Cliff Anishinaabe tribe in Wisconsin, as has been with the North American Traditional Indigenous Food Systems from the very beginning. And he's now the kitchen manager of the Indigenous Food Lab here. So you might have seen him cooking if you've been here before. And Riva is from right here in Minneapolis and is Ojibwe, Dakota, Mexican, and European. And they have had a number of different job experiences that led them to the culinary team here at the Indigenous Food Lab. And we met attending the Indigenous Food Network meetings. So I'm just really excited to be here with you all, and I'm going to pass it on to them.
My name is Defoe. I'm from Red Cliff, Wisconsin. We are going to make a salad today with some stuff that would be in season around this time, and then also a couple of indigenous ingredients. And we're happy to do this.
Yeah, can everyone hear us okay?
Yes.
I would try to get the microphone set up, but the batteries are dead. So
So we'll try to
we'll just try to
speak loudly. There's a couple more chairs that are coming up in a minute. But yeah, I'm Riva. I use they, them pronouns. I'm from Minneapolis. I'm not enrolled in any tribe, but my great grandmother was from White Earth Reservation. And yeah.
Yeah.
You gonna start?
Yeah, so let's see, this salad is pesto zucchini salad with wild rice and beans. So we're gonna start with we got the beans going because they kind of take a little bit longer. So I was afraid that they might not get done in time. So we're just gonna start by cooking off the beans and the wild rice, and then after they're done getting like nice and tender, we'll just transfer it through a tray to cool so we can put them on top of the salad later.
We're using black beans that we have obviously soaked in our cooking ourselves, but you could use any kind of bean that you like, and you can make them at home, or you can use canned beans as well. Canned beans. Yeah.
Wild rice here. So. Get these going, and then you wanna start doing the vinaigrette.
Yeah, so we're gonna make like a fresh vinaigrette. Got some fresh herbs. Right now we have thyme. You can use like, any herbs you like in your salad.
Yeah, so this time of year, there's so many different things coming out, so we just kind of set fresh herbs, what you could use. Thyme, you can use rosemary, dill, whatever you want.
Basil, mint.
Yeah,
Chop it up.
Yeah.
yes. And or another thing that you could use that a lot of people might not know about bergamot. It's called wild oregano, and it has this very similar flavor, but it's soda. Like the leaves and the flowers if you want. Or just you want to make it just a simple vinaigrette. That's the other thing about this whole recipe is you can add or replace ingredients with whatever you want. Pretty much that's available.
And we're just doing like 6 ounces of a vinaigrette. But, you could always scale it out if you wanted to make more and save it for another meal or whatever.
Do you have any questions or anything while we're? Very good.
That's a good question.
Absolutely not. Wild rice is, so white rice is a simple carbohydrate. Wild rice is a complex carbohydrate. It's actually not even rice, kind of technically, it's a grass seed. So, you don't need to, have a perfect ratio. You can, if you want, do that, but you can also just boil the rice until, like I said, it's tender. Ready to go. Wild rice is pretty diverse too, so just like, kind of like this. You can use it like savory dishes. You can overcook it. It's just like a dessert or like a breakfast with it with berries. And then there's a difference in the rices. The stuff that we're handing out today is cultivated wild rice, by the way, which is different. Wild rice is called wild rice because it's pretty much impossible to produce. Pretty much you just throw a seed out and you cross your fingers that it's going to catch. You blend out and figure out where it's going to harness it. So. Yes. But the cultivated rice that has very similar flavor, I think it's like a hybrid of some rices and wild rice. That's normally like the stuff you can find like some packets and stuff like that. Hand harvested wild rice also takes a lot less time, depending on the rice too, though. So most of the time it takes like 10 to 15 minutes to cook, whereas cultivated rice would take 25 minutes. So there are some rices like various sizes, like boys, of course, they have really massive grains that are super long and really thick and takes quite a while. The water ratio typically for wild rice is like a 3-to-1 ratio.
More than white rice or brown
Yeah.
rice. Yeah.
Yep.
It absorbs a lot of liquid.
But like the cultivated rice, it's more like a 4-to-1 ratio. So that's kind of some of the stuff about wild rice that I know.
And Vern was referring to some door prizes that we have,
Yes.
so I snagged them, so.
Yeah, that is also, it is cultivated rice, but it's from Red Lake Reservation. So we do use it because hand harvested wild rice is pretty expensive. It's about, and you actually not even know, it's like $12 to $15 a pound. Whereas the cultivated rice is like 6 to 7. So, and you get a bigger yield. The paddy rice is still really good.
So just putting my little thing for the vinaigrette in here, and then I'll put them in here. We're just getting like a teaspoon of herbs, teaspoon of some fresh garlic. So a little bit of chopped onion as well.
And the vinaigrette, I just put garlic or onion on there because you can kind of use either interchangeably, or like a shallot, you know, you can use shallots.
Chives or
Yeah, just something to give it kind of like that pungent flavor.
yes.
Just really kind of
Salad. Yeah.
we actually also, we have maybe vinegar too. Which is, you can find that around different places too. We're using apple cider vinegar. It's pretty good, you know. You can use, that's diverse, I guess you can see. You can use it with savory dressing, sweet dressing, as opposed to like balsamic vinegar or red wine vinegar. It's a little specific. A little bit of lemon.
Really big.
Yeah, it's a big lemon. Forget what I think they're Jamaican. Pretty big.
Yeah, you can use like any citrus too, you know.
Yep. And then lime. Grapefruit.
I was wondering how you recommended doing lemon, but it looks like that's what you recommend doing, so.
Yeah, it also helps by the dressing.
And keeps everything fresh.
Very big and fibrous.
Yeah.
I'm always having to pick seeds out when I do it by hand.
Yeah, these little, the citrus squeezers are pretty handy because it makes sure that the seeds don't. But yeah, if you don't have a citrus squeezer, you can also just kind of like squeeze it in your hand like this so the seeds don't fall in. Or you can just squeeze it and pick them out, whatever you want.
Use apple cider vinegar.
And there is a sign up sheet going around that'll help us with the door prizes, but also if you want to check for getting information from natives or from edible cultivars. And we can always use volunteers too, so.
The blender on now.
We have a pretty big blender, so it's a little bit overkill, but
Yeah. I'm gonna try and get everything else pretty blended, okay, before I add the oil.
want to make sure you don't have any like big old chunks of stuff. Kind of like a car wash.
Yeah.
We do have some folks joining us on Zoom, so if you all have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat.
Yeah, anybody who's got any questions, feel free to ask anything.
So the vinaigrette, you know, when you add the oil, you want to try and do it slowly to hopefully get the right emulsification. I'm not always the best at it myself.
Also, if you don't have a blender, you could just put all the ingredients in a bowl and whisk it and I do the same thing after oils. You know, it won't always multiply, but as long as it's incorporated right before you're gonna stretch it, it's salad, but.
Yeah. Yeah, if it doesn't multiply right, just shake it up before you put on your salad.
Okay, Vern, we have a question. Do you prefer Minnesota or Wisconsin wild rice?
Depending on what I say, that might.
Right.
But, I don't know, I like them both. Wild rice is one of my favorite foods. I'm not just trying to say that, but. I'm from Wisconsin, so, you know, but wild rice, doesn't matter. It's Canada, Minnesota, Wisconsin. They might even have wild rice beds out. Because it grows all around the Great Lakes, so probably some Ohio and stuff like that too. But.
Our ancestors didn't have those exact borders.
Yes,
So,
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's part of some of the ugly history that we've got. Yeah, this place had lots of food and wild rice was prominent everywhere. Now, you know, with industry and you know, disruptions to water supplies and stuff like that. Whether it's, you know, lakes that allow gas vehicles on them and affect the wild rice, obviously like water or polluting, you know, pollution. That pollution is the thing. It's a really tragic thing. So, yeah, it's a shame. Right.
yeah, so we can just set this aside till we're ready to dress our salad. Hopefully it'll stay like that.
Yeah.
If you did get the right constitution, what would the consistency be?
It'll just, the oil and the other liquids will just start to separate and the oil will come to the top. And it just doesn't look right. So.
Yeah. All right, now I'm gonna do pesto down here. Kind of spread stuff out so I can get some views. I'm gonna start by toasting the potatoes. So you can toast seeds a couple different ways. I'm just gonna do it on hand. And then also, like, while we're waiting for this to heat up, start holding the potato. Reduce kale, basil, and mints. I was gonna do just kale and basil, but somebody snagged my other, like, basil, but the cool thing about pesto is you can kind of do whatever you want there.
Yeah, you can use any greens, really, like we have a garden over in across the street from the Indigenous health board, and we have a ton of carrots that are just like popping up, and we made a pesto out of the carrot top, and it turned out really delicious. So like even greens that you would maybe just like throw away, you can probably make a pesto with it.
What did you season that with?
I use a little bit of fresh sage as well. I put some maple syrup in it, and then for like the nut, I used the seed instead, and I used pumpkin seeds.
So
Yeah, and it was really good. And
just
carrot greens. Carrot, also used a little kale, a little sage, and some lamb's pork.
Got all that.
Yeah.
Right. Turn the kale, good way to cook kale, just kind of hold it upside down. You kind of, like it folds over, just fold it over, just air. People will cut it off. When you do like, work in a restaurant, you do like 6 cases, it takes a while. Easy way to do it. So, all right, and then you want to kind of turn them up a little bit to like maybe chunks that are about, you know, 1 to 3 inches so that we're blending it up, we don't get any big chunks in there. So, and you can also post seeds in the oven, with a sheet tray. I just kind of wanted to put it on so. I like doing pepitas because they make like a really cool popping sound. They kind of and keep doing this for a while. What's that? Sure. Yeah, sorry about that. We usually have all the speakers set up, but the batteries are dead. Just gotta check.
Oh, okay, sorry. We had a question, what else could be used instead of pine nuts for allergy reasons?
Pepitas,
Pepitas, that's what we're using today.
sunflowers. I mean, you can use any sort of seed or nut. I know there's some nut allergies out there.
But yeah,
Seeds usually don't affect me.
Yeah, like we're not using any pine nuts today, right?
Nope, pine nuts.
Yeah. Pumpkin seeds, those are the seeds, sunflower seeds could use as well. No other seeds.
Pecan, well,
Or that's
a
a nut.
yeah. Maybe hazelnuts, they're a bush nut, which some people are okay with eating bush nuts. We're starting to hear it pop now. Hear that, crackle. Kind of want to keep an eye on them because if you let them go too long, they can get pretty quick. So just agitate them. Spatula. Don't know. And start putting the basil and mint in. Basil's are already kind of the same size that we like, although some basil plants pretty big leaves. This is just sweet basil, but you could, I mean, if you want to use high basil, thank you. Again, like you could use. Like Riva was saying earlier, they use fresh sage, so you could any herb really you can substitute in. Some of them, you know, each one kind of taste of those stronger than other.
If you use sage, you want to use the culinary sage.
Yes. Yes. Use the culinary. Please don't use the white sage.
I wish those who are on Zoom could smell everything that we're, here with the pepitas and the citrus dressing and the wild rice and beans and everything.
Not sure what kind of mint this is.
That is a food process. Yeah.
Yes, so this is a food processor. I know that some people, they can be pretty expensive. If you don't have a food processor, it might be kind of hard, but you could use a mortar and pestle, grind it. It will just take a lot longer, but it's kind of fun to do.
There are almost always food processors at the thrift store. Almost always, like you can find one.
Actually, the one I have at home, I found at their store.
Especially Salvation Army.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, they are like lifesavers.
maybe not that industrial, I guess.
Well, like,
Yeah.
you're not taking it back.
Yeah, that's like an industrial.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, this is
I like the metal.
restaurant
roll.
grade.
yeah,
And like, you can even add flowers in if you want. You know. Whatever.
Would the two of you be able to talk a little bit about our theme, celebrating our roots, and what that means to the two of you?
Sure. Very good question.
What celebrating our roots means to them as they're cooking this dish.
I think, so like I said, some of the ingredients that we're using, like we're using, pine nuts are indigenous to here, but just to kind of show the diversity that you can use. Like you could use pumpkin seeds or squash seeds or whatever, which are indigenous to here. We're using wild rice for the salad. Beans are from the Americas. And just, yeah, through the food, just celebrating the ingredients that are here, that are indigenous to the Americas.
yeah, I guess for me, like, yeah, that's like a big question. And like, as far as like food goes, like I try to be like celebrating my roots in like every way I can in my life. And to me, that means like bringing a deep colonial spirit with me in myself when I go. And like I said, I'm not enrolled in a tribe, and like a lot of my family's legacy was lost. And like my great grandmother, they were in the boarding schools and stuff. So all of that was lost, and they were forcibly removed from their land and then put in reservations, and then forcibly moved from the reservation as well down to the city. And a lot of that was lost. But to me, it's very important to reclaim that, because I know that that is how like I can help heal not just myself, but my community. And so that means like trying to like eat the food that my ancestors ate, and trying to like share that with the community and make that something that is accessible to all of us, and not just to like a select few who can, afford that kind of food. And also just to bring more awareness and like help people learn to cook the food from their ancestors, and also the food of the land that they are residing on, no matter where their people are from. Like a short way to say it.
All right. Beans are done, so I'm just gonna put them on a tray, so try to even them out so that they cool quickly.
You said you did those from raw.
What's that?
You did those from raw.
I soaked them overnight and then I kind of started them for today because, for the class, just because I was afraid they might not be done.
When you do them that way, how long do you usually? I can never figure out.
It depends on the bean you're making,
It really-
honestly.
It's
Yeah,
hard to
depends
say.
on the specific bean you're using.
Alright, the rice is ready.
We did the black beans because they're generally quicker than like a temporary bean or another bean like that.
That's a easy.
Still they're soft.
Yeah. So.
But I would even try to get the proportion exactly right. Like I just
Yeah.
add a little more water than needed, and when they're done, dump them out.
Totally.
Then I don't
Yeah.
have to like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I
And
didn't
you
have
just
to.
simmer, yeah, you don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've done them in the crock pot.
Yeah.
That's easiest kind of, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. They use a pressure cooker too, and get them done in like an hour or two.
I stir up more beans with my instant pot dough.
Yeah.
than on-
Totally. Yeah, you can't like
It's
look
faster,
in there
but
and
then I
check on
realize-
them.
We're gonna be mixing these together later, so I'm just. We'll run these. And the seeds in the cooler over there. So we want the seeds to be cool. Because if you put them in warm, it's gonna warm the greens up. And speaking of ingredients, we're gonna also use sumac. I don't know if anybody's familiar with sumac, but very indigenous in Minnesota. They have these pods, seed pods that grow in the pits of the plants.
And it's growing all over. Like it's really common on like the side of highways and stuff. You'll see those berries, and then they have kind of like big long leaves that look a little bit like ferns, but like tall, and they're kind of like tree bushes.
Yeah. And it has a nice, like, kind of a citrusy flavor. And what you want to do is you want to dry them out. You can use a dehydrator. You can put them in your window for a few days. But you want to wait till they're red, like this color. I already have some, and then pick them off. But I have some pretty thick. Then you just pop them in the spice manager. Additionally, a lot of people like to make tea with this, like a cold tea in the summertime.
Yeah, sumac lemonade. a lot of people call it.
So you just add some sugar and maple syrup.
Yeah. Very delicious. And it's just a great like you can use it to spice so many things. Like I've made vinaigrette with it. I put it on popcorn, or like corn on the cob. We use it in a lot of our recipes here. We make tortillas with it in sometimes, and it just kind of gives it like a little bit of a citrusy. Yeah.
So that's a coffee grinder. He's just grinding it up.
Yeah, coffee grinder or grinder. Yeah.
You know where you can buy snacks around here? Or you can pick it off the street?
I feel like I've gotten that at the West, because they're both like.
Yeah. I think so. I know we've ordered it from like Frontier before. But I think I wouldn't be surprised if they have for like the web.
I know they have it powder there.
Yeah.
I wonder if, like, the Middle Eastern markets, well, they used to make a lot in Middle East.
You just go outside and pick them off the bush.
Right?
And it's a little different, like actually, I'll pass this around all the kids. The stuff that grows in the Middle East, it's got like it's like a shiny, kind of a smooth outside to the seeds. And this stuff is kind of fuzzy. So, but it's similar flavor. It's also a little bit, the seeds are a little bit smaller. So I think a lot of times the Middle Eastern stuff is popular to get a bigger deal. They have.
Are there places other than the highway that you found? You know, like
I mean,
parks? and
it
stuff?
really is. It grows all over. Like when the leaves will start to turn red, towards the end of fall too, and that's also how you can kind of tell which ones they are. Like I see them down at like many hot balls, like everywhere. Like it's very common. Yeah.
Okay.
Once you see it, you'll start
Yeah.
noticing.
You'll start noticing it,
It's
yeah.
like plantain leaves. Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
everybody, we know what they are, but didn't know we could eat them.
Yeah.
Do you want to pass it back?
So let's take up these.
Sorry, now you're.
Got some garlic,
Oh yeah.
pesto. What should I say? Again, like if you do those recipes, like if you don't like garlic, put a little less. If you love garlic, put a little more.
Oh, yeah. Oh, let's see.
So, and you use the whole, when you pick those off and they're dry, you use the whole thing. There's not like, you have to get the little berry inside.
No, yep. You can just blend these right up.
Make a powder.
Yeah, that's what Vern did, yeah. Yeah, and I mean like that's, you can make them to use the tea like that, or lemonade. I mean, I'm sure you could eat them like that too, but it just is a easier seasoning with it being ground up, you know.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the recipes. Oh, follow along.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So yes, somebody just asked about the recipe on here and it will be getting sent out digitally to everybody that registers. So those who register will get a copy too.
Nope. Right.
Are the berries generally ready on sumac at the end of fall?
No, I'm not really sure. That's when the leaves will be turning red, so I can tell if they're
Right.
more. You know, when the season enters, sumac,
Sumac is usually like later summer, fall. You can also get it though when it's green. It's just, you know, it's got a more of a bitter flavor than normal, but you want to at least wait. 'Cause it's kind of like a tomato where, you know, gets to it. It looks like it's about the size it's gonna get, and then it starts turning red. So kind of like a green tomato situation where you can get green sumac. But yeah, I would say like once it starts turning red is like mid to late August, all the way through the fall. And then yeah, they stick around all the winter. So you can go pick some in the winter time before you can get to it.
then you can really just like, you know, they really pop out.
Two tablespoons of sumac.
No, it's like, it's not really fuzzy, it's like a lighter green, and the leaves are kind of like shade, like, what's that, like a dry texture. They're, I don't know what plant it is, right? But you want to- is that what it's called?
All right, so we got everything in here. It's kind of like the vinegar in it. You wanna
It doesn't have-
just kind of pour it in a little slow, but I'm gonna put it first. Get it a little bit. Go check on those Pepitas too real quick.
I'm not on my own, but okay, cool. Yeah,
Right.
garden, it's all over my yard. Yeah,
Pumpkin seeds.
yeah. I might know it, sometimes I know like the Ojibwe word for it, or I know like the word for it. Right, like, might be the same thing. That's the big place around here. Yes, exactly, yeah.
I'll start adding oil. Takes a little bit. It seems like it's not gonna happen a lot of times. But once they get going, it starts turning into pesto pretty quick. And you can use any kind of oil. Olive oil is like, you know, the traditional way to do it, but you can use sunflower oil, canola oil if that's the only thing you have access to, avocado oil. Actually, I have some more oil. It's not quite as soft as I want it to be. So this is our backup oil. And depending on what you're doing with it, you know, like where this is going to be coating the sauteed zucchini, so I want it to be kind of smooth. And also the recipe I have scaled bigger than what we're gonna be using. But you can, pesto freezes really well, so you can freeze it and use it for pasta a couple nights later, or, you know. Keep it in the freezer whenever the heck you wanna use it.
Really easy for pesto someone taught me is you can like put it in ice cube trays and then you have like a single serving of pesto to like put on your pasta.
For the winter especially. That looks so good.
Yeah.
All right, so there's our pesto. What we got next? Zucchini time?
Yep.
Okay.
So, your gardens might be helping out with zucchini right now.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna use some zucchini. Yeah, we got these are some little ones. These are all from the Stream of Wild Health CSA boxes. So beautiful little.
Yeah, we threw some summer squash in there. You can use any squash, but we just picked squash in general because a lot of times, like the summer squash or zucchini, they just, or Riva was saying, they pop off, and sometimes we don't know how to use it. So we're just trying to show how to use it a good way and delicious way.
So the measurement that was on the recipe, we were gonna do more than that, right? How much
Yeah.
what were we gonna do?
Just a couple. It's not gonna coat that, so.
How do you come up with your recipes for here?
Just kind of, we just kind of like try to replace ingredients or like recipes, stuff, and just replace it with indigenous ingredients as much as we possibly can. You know, like just trying to think of an example, like a pesto. You know, pesto is like we will use just like whatever greens. You know, because also part of being indigenous is like being resourceful and using whatever's around you. And so, like, we have a green bowl here that has quinoa and wild rice. And we put hominy in there, because one is also from the Americas. We top it with like root vegetables and mushrooms, just try to use indigenous ingredients. As much as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, like I get inspired by like trying to like bring in like kind of like a comfort food with indigenous ingredients, you know, like stuff like that. One of the recipes I came up on our menu is our like pecan pies, vegan pecan crust with the blueberry in the inside. And I just wanted to do something that was like a delicious pie, but was gluten-free, dairy-free, and with only indigenous ingredients. So that means, you know, like I'm not gonna use flour. I'm also not gonna use a lot of like the different types of gluten-free flour because a lot of those aren't from here. And so I just kind of was like messing around and I came up with that. And I don't know, I just like get inspired by different things that I eat And then I'm like, I want to make something kind of like that with what we do. Like we, like we have a Riva's at Romney, and we kind of changed it a little bit and have the chocolate cakes, which is their corn cakes. Just, or like we have a pickled squash salsa on the menu too, which is another one of the recipes I did. And I was just like, oh, I love pickled stuff. We do a lot of corn here, and we do a lot of squash. I was like, oh, I bet squash would be good pickled. And it turned out good. So, just kind of like playing around with stuff. Like sometimes I make something and it turns out super nasty, and that's fine. But it's like that's part of like, just like if you love to cook, just play around with stuff and you'll come up with something awesome.
I get the pies all the time.
Yeah, they're good. Lots of pecans. And pecans are native from here, and pecan is actually derived from the Ojibwe word for nut. Oh. And with that too, like with the crust, like when you make a pie crust with flour, you usually use like whole butter, so it's nice and flaky. I just kind of did that with like the pecan one too, where I just made I made pecan butter, and then I roast that. And so that's a really good gluten free tip. It's like you can kind of, or dairy free, you can kind of make that flaky buttery crust, but use like a nut butter instead. And you freeze it and grate it like you would any butter.
So did you just like multiply pecans?
Yeah. What? I totally did not.
This is the first time we've used this.
Yeah, I've never used this thing before. And then with the market specifically too, we have like a lot of folks who work here who also like indigenous to Mexico and the South Americas. And so we have a lot of things on our menu that are like a combination of like North American indigenous food and South American indigenous food, which is like a really awesome like relationship that we can have with meeting each other too. The corn is the next olive oil in the Americas.
Yeah, a lot of it started in the Andes Mountains by the Incan Empire. Before that, now we have corn in Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like our salsas, there's a little bit of a combo. We put pepitas in the green salsa and pecans in the red salsa.
Or like our bison birria is like, that birria is like a more traditional Mexican American way to cook meat, but then we did it with bison instead of with like cow or pork,
We're also working on making potatoes.
Yep.
Which is in the works right now. Once we get that down, I think we're gonna be selling it to Omni and then also here and serving it here. So far it's worked good. Still a little bit of a work in progress, but I would say by winter, springtime, the latest Tuesday.
Yeah.
Do you need taste testers?
Maybe,
Yeah, we will, I'm sure.
That's we're gonna kick off here. So I get to taste all the recipes.
yeah.
Did you want to talk a little bit about the North American traditional indigenous food systems?
Yeah. Generally, we do things like this. IFL, which is where we are, is a project of natives. So we're hoping to do more of these spread throughout North America, with regional specific indigenous food. So here we focus a lot on Dakota and Anishinaabe foods, just because that's the land we're on, as well as like Riva said, having that like interrelationship between where our employees are familiar with. But yeah, we're looking at different areas, starting those relationships right now to try and figure out what areas are looking for something like this there, and it can look different everywhere, really. So whether that's something at a college or something on a reservation or something in another food hall like this, we're just looking to make Indigenous food access a lot easier for everyone.
So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm starting. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
I'm talking, should I wait till it's, they're cooler or should I do it while it's on?
I don't even do either or.
But this is like, you know, a light fry and then like, they're still a little bit al dente. I like them like that, but you can also do them, you know, however you like to cook it.
Yeah, a lot of times the thing about summer squash and zucchinis are if you cook them, they can turn mushy really quickly. So usually it's just like a quick saute. It doesn't take very long to cook those. But some people like it mushy too. I personally don't, but you know, each his own. Everybody's tastes are valid.
And we're just gonna toss the veggies in the pesto. Obviously, you could make any veggies or whatever you want for the top of your salad, you know. You could, like, I'm sure this would be like delicious on tofu or like peppers and onions or whatever you like. Also, if you like more than a tablespoon of pesto, put more on your food.
They have this
Yeah.
pretty looking tomato here. The heirloom tomato, but you can use any tomato. I just love these tomatoes. They taste great. They look really good. You can use little grape tomatoes.
For 10 years in restaurants, and we never wore gloves and never.
Oh, yeah.
The whole glove thing. It's the health department, right? Like,
Yeah, it mostly started during COVID. Like, cause I worked in restaurants for 1 time, 2 years. And
Yeah.
started.
Tomatoes are in this.
I
I
don't get to
So
see.
many good folks. Now, lots of people realize that.
I don't have to wash my hands.
These
This was in Philadelphia. And
and spice. And so you can add any other fresh veggies to the salad, like bell pepper, onion. It's already kind of a complex recipe, so just try to keep it simple. So we got our nice tomatoes in here. And vinaigrettes.
It's separate.
Just a little
Well,
bit
it's
of
being
salt.
hard, yeah. Just.
Sorry. All right. And so we're just tossing the salad. With some tongs and a bowl. Yeah. I'm just gonna put them on those little rectangle things. Right. And you're in this cutting board. First time in here, like I said.
Would now be a good time for me to talk about our announcements?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Do you have any announcements you want to share?
Mostly we just have one, which is at the Indigenous People Campus State Fair, which is Sunday, August 27th. We have a whole day of programming, a lot of food demonstrations like this from really, really talented chefs and foragers and knowledge keepers. So we're really excited. If you want to come out on that day to support us, we're at Dan Patch Park.
Awesome. Thank you, Em.
And they'll be wrapped. And they'll be we can't do more raffle. Oh, giveaways. Raffle lots that are a little weird.
And then I am going to go over here because we have a few things for ours. Sorry. One thing is we are, this is just a flyer that we have here, but, and maybe Spencer, would you be able to hold this on me or with one of you? Thank you. So, I'll try and talk loud enough for everybody to hear me. So we are doing a project with the Corcoran neighborhood and we are looking for 3 youth who are in 9th grade through 11th grade. We are creating a community food forest fair. So if you know anyone who goes to South High, we would love for them to apply. Essentially, they will be like the food justice coordinators there. And so we have flyers for that. And the applications are due tomorrow. So please reach out to them as soon as you can. One other announcement that are actually two. One is these are upcoming cooking classes. I have one poster, so the QR codes are on here if you're interested. Natalia Mendez will be teaching at McKinley Community Garden next month. That will be grilled summer squash with nopal, which is cactus, and beans, black beans. So that'll be really good. And then Derek Nicholas will be back on the south side at Lake House in October. He did awesome wild rice dishes last year, so imagine there'll be something to do with Manoomin again. And then the last announcement, sorry, we have a campus directory. So these are a whole bunch of businesses that have based options. Could be restaurants, but we have some other things in here too. We have a walking in here. The market was not in business when we had this at the beginning of the year, so we'll get you all in here for next year's. But if you want to pick one of these up, I have those here. So just wanted to let everybody know that. So I will turn that back over to you.
All right. And obviously, good timing here. We're gonna start leading this. Close on. Like this, you know, sell for.
Oh, you.
But. I'm gonna have a little bit more. I figured I'd make a recipe that, you know, our family eats, so instead of just one serving. Potatoes on there, kind of at the bottom. That's one of the problems with mixing all the stuff together in a salad is all the heavier stuff. My speed mix on that. That looks like there's one, so I can make it now. That's good.
Beautiful.
The beans. Potatoes. Oh yeah, we gotta get some silverwares.
Are we gonna be able to have everybody have some or?
Yeah, you know what? Maybe we should split these up into little small things.
Planes too,
Okay.
over there.
Yeah, okay, yeah, just wanted to plate it just so we, like for certain. We can do little individual. Well,
Is there anything you want to share before I close out on Zoom?
no, I hope that, that this is a fun recipe for everybody. You can make it as complex or simple as you want. It does have a lot of components, but it's really fun to do. Like, I like making peppers from scratch. Salads are always good in the summer, and it's a good use to use some veggies that you might not know.
Thank you so much. Did you? Riva, I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you off there. Did you want to say anything?
Oh, no, I just didn't even- thank you.
All right, thank you. Thanks everybody for coming.